All right. Let me get this set up. Are we full screen here? All right, welcome everybody, and thanks for LACA for giving us the time to come talk to you today about Frontline. We know that the highlight of the day is going to be talking about Frontline Progress Book SIS, and Craig Munyon, our project manager, is going to be here to do that. Before we get into the SIS, I wanted to just talk to you a little bit about Frontline and give you a little bit of a background for those that don't know. Frontline is a company that offers all kinds of solutions for K-12. And if you go to our website, just frontlineeducation.com, we're not going to talk about these too much, but we do have a whole set of human capital management programs for absence and time and substitutes, for recruiting and hiring and different things. So we have all these different products that are also designed for K-12. The ones we're going to talk about today a little bit, of course, is student information. And we're also going to talk just briefly, so you make you aware of student or school health management and also special programs management. So we're going to just talk about those just a little bit. But if you go to our home site, you can see all that information there. So let me just go to the About Us just for a second. And I just want to scroll down here a little bit. So again, Frontline is a company that is solely focused on K-12 education only. That's all we do is K-12 education. We don't do anything else. And as you see in the About Us, sole focus on K-12. We've got various software. We're trying to dedicate to integrated systems. So as we get all these different systems, we're trying to make sure they're all get integrated over time. And we're also very big on security, industry leading security. So again, you can see all these different products here on our website. Again, I don't want to talk too much about them, but I just want to mention a couple of these. One of them I'll mention real quickly is Frontline Recruiting and Hiring. You may know that as AppleTrack. A lot of districts in LACA and all across the state use AppleTrack. That's a Frontline product that we have. Another one over here, Absence and Time Management. And our pictures are kind of blocking it here, so let me move that. Okay. Hey, there we go. Frontline Absence and Time Management, again, another software formerly known as ASAP. So a lot of folks in the area here are also using that for your substitutes and for tracking absence and time. Those are the two big ones used in Ohio. We also have Professional Growth, Frontline Central to capture all your forms and staff documents. And again, we're going to talk just briefly about school health and the special education programs. And again, the star of the show is going to be Frontline SIS, that you guys are used to, or Progress Book. So that's just a little bit of introduction, a little background of Frontline. Now I'll go back to the PowerPoint here. Let me start this up. All right, Frontline Education, I gave you that background. Let me just briefly talk to you about Progress Book. And again, you guys should be aware of this. It's our student information system that's been around for a long time. And the items that I wanted to talk to you about, whoops, it's a little touchy here. Let's see, previous screen. Page up. What I want to talk to you about is the kind of the unique relationship that we have here in Ohio. And I want to just give you a brief history. Some of you may have been around for all the time and know the history, but I want to just update everybody on that. Progress Book kind of grew out of the software, again, formerly known as Dazzle. We have all these softwares that have new names. So Dazzle was the software that was owned by the ITCs, or the Management Council here in Ohio. And at one point, Software Answers, the software company, became the developers for Dazzle. and it was kind of a partnership between the ITCs and the Management Council and Frontline Education, and Software Answers. And then eventually Software Answers purchased the software outright, and the ITCs were paid for that software, and Software Answers became the owners of that. And at that point, it became just known as Progress Book. But I know a lot of people still refer to it as Dazzle, but it's now Progress Book SIS. And then a few years ago, Frontline purchased Software Answers, so now it's Frontline SIS. So, but we do have that special relationship here in Ohio, and it is still kind of a partnership with all the ITCs and the school districts. So it's supported by the ITCs. Let me see what our other notes here. Whoops. Supported by the ITCs. Again, this is an Ohio-based product. Progress Book is only used in Ohio. So therefore, we can customize it to try and fit everything that we need in Ohio. And of course, Progress Book has always done that with the EMIS side of things, especially. Totally compliant with EMIS and very Ohio focused on the software. The last item I want to talk to you about is marketing a little bit. And again, this is an area that, again, is a partnership with Frontline and the ITCs. Because of that relationship that we've had over the years, Frontline and Progress Book has never really tried to market the product to the school districts. So you're probably receiving marketing from Power School, from IEP Anywhere, from Infinite Campus, from who knows who else. And you may be wondering, why aren't we getting anything from Frontline on the SIS? Well, that's because of this partnership. And one thing we're going to try to do is increase that marketing. We're still not going to market directly to the school districts. We're going to send the marketing materials to the ITCs and let the ITCs distribute those out to the districts. That's just the way our partnership has worked through the years. We want to continue that. So there were a couple documents I sent to Megan. I don't know, Megan, if everybody got those and you got those in the thing. So we're gonna start seeing more of that. We're gonna, as we get marketing items, we're gonna make sure that you see those. I talked to all the ITCs in the state, and one ITC in the state told me a comment that I think Frontline Progress Book is going away because we don't hear anything about that. Well, it's not going away, and it's one of the reasons we wanted to come out here to LACA today and talk to you about it. We want to show you what the plan is for not only what's going on right now, but what's going on with the roadmap and what's going on with the future of Progress Book. So that's kind of why we're here. We want to talk to you a little bit about the roadmap and what's going on with Progress Book.
And, oh, go ahead, sorry.
Oh, somebody got a question? I think, is there a component for a time clock? I don't know. The main part of the substitute calling is not a time clock, but I do think we have some integration with the various time clock manufacturers.
You have one that is not an actual time clock, but it is a time entry. I can't remember the name of it. Veritime.
Veritime.
Hey, Dean, are you able to repeat that question for everybody that's?
Oh, the question was
Sorry,
absence
thank
of
you.
time. Yeah, absence and time, is that a time clock system? And the ASOP program and the absence and time management does interface with various time clocks, and we may have Mary said we have a manual entry system. That's something we can get some more information on. And again, those are products that are used all across the state. And if all of these products that we talk about today, if you guys are interested in, we can set up a demo for that. And we can show you more. We're talking to the Management Council and the ITCs right now about perhaps setting up an Ohio statewide job site and using proactive recruiting and hiring to do that. So, and if that goes through, that's just in a proposals right now. But if that goes through, we're going to probably ask the ITCs to help support that too. So, and they'll get some reimbursement for that. But yeah, that's all these products. Some of them are separate now, and they don't totally integrate, but they're all designed for K-12, and eventually, we hope to have these all integrated in some fashion or another, even into the student information. And Craig will talk a little bit about how far we've gone with that so far, and not very far, but that is on the roadmap. Okay. Let's see here. Get this to advance now. No, it's stuck. Oh, there we go. And again, this is just another marketing slide we just put in here. So again, we'll start sharing some of this information with you, but Frontline has been around and Progress Book has been around. These figures were, I think, prior to the pandemic. I think they're probably a year old. So it might not be exactly 70% of Ohio school districts using it anymore. But these numbers show you a little bit of what's going on in the state of Ohio. And again, Progress Book is focused only on the state of Ohio. And again, Frontline's goal is to try to encompass all of this. And we've got a little wheel here that we talk about, starting up at the top where it has the, and again, this is kind of blocking this. Starting up at the top is the student information system to manage the student experience. We're going to talk a little bit about school health and then the special education programs. Also a Medicaid reimbursement module that Frontline has. And again, one of the most important pieces here in Ohio is compliance. All of these products maintain Ohio compliance. Okay. Let me first talk to you a little bit about the special programs module. The first bullet under plan is kind of the IEP and other forms, writing forms. So you define all the state compliant forms that are required for special education. Just like you do with SPS and what you do with Same Goal, you define all those forms, they're all Ohio compliant. Now, what the special programs management system does, it goes above and beyond that. And again, you can utilize some of these parts if you want. You don't have to, but it also will let you allocate your staff and assign your staff to the IEP and the ERT events. It has a scheduler built into it where you can schedule all of that. And then also it has service tracking for Medicaid reimbursements, and also a way to file all of your Medicaid reimbursement claims. So it's not just an IEP writer system. It has all these other features as well. That's what the end goal is designed with the special programs management. Okay. And I want to just give you an update of where that is. This is again, Frontline's next generation special education program. So it came from a product called Excelify, and it's being rewritten in Ohio to work for Ohio schools. That process has not quite gone as planned, and we're about probably 6 months behind where we'd hoped to be. So we kind of took a little pause and a reset, and we're getting a lot of the software updates are being completed right now. We just did I think it was almost a month-long ITC training camp where we invited all the ITCs. I know Jenny, I don't know if Annie sent in on some of those. Jenny sent in on a couple of those, but we had a whole entire training camp for ITCs to show them how SPM would work so that they'll be ready to train school districts. And that will also be turned into kind of an e-learning opportunity. So all those training camps were captured and they'll be available as online training. So where we are right now is we've got our client zero, our first initial district is Indian Hill down in HCC, Hamilton County land. And they've been a part of this for a couple months, and they basically went through the training and they saw the software, and there were a couple items that they said, we need this fixed before we can use it. And that's where we're at right now. We're going to show them a demo coming up here in December, and Indian Hill will decide whether or not they want to go live with this on December 13th. And we fully anticipate that that's the timeline that we're on right now. As soon as we get them up and going, we have another district over in Rebecca, over in Yellow Springs, that's signed up to be the early adopter district number 2. And so we are looking for more early adopters if anybody's interested in doing this. What an early adopter is instead of getting trained by the ITC, you'll get trained by frontline staff. And we will work with you kind of white glove care to make sure if you have any issues that get responded to immediately. It is kind of an early adopter or beta program kind of. And we'll work with that district to get you through and get you live on the software and working. After the early adopter phase, like next spring or next summer, it'll be in general availability and the ITCs will help you do that. They'll train you and they'll help you get going as well as frontline. But if anybody is interested in being an early adopter, that's what that is. I can't see what's under here, so I got to move it. Oh. And if interested, we can do that. I think Jenny's setting up a demo for all the LACA districts for SPM at some point. So in January, so we'll have a demo in January for you guys. If you are interested, make sure you attend that. And if you're interested in being an early adopter, great. If not, we'll wait till whenever to do the general availability. So that's the special education piece of that. And again, it's not just an IEP writer. It includes all the other things for 504, gifted, all those things. And if you are interested, it can do the service tracking, Medicaid reporting, or Medicaid reporting, but you don't need to use those if you don't want to. You can just use the IEP reporting pieces if you want. Yeah, there is an extra fee for if you want to do the service tracking in the Medicaid.
So that is extra.
That's an extra piece. Yeah, there is. And basically what you pay right now, if you're an SPS district, you just transfer over into SPM at the same price. It wouldn't include the service tracking and Medicaid piece. That would be an extra piece. Okay. Another product that we have is called School Health Management. We've got a few schools in Ohio we're using this. It was called Health Master before, and there's a few schools in Ohio that were already using this. Frontline purchased this and is also updating this. Basically, it's a school health system. It'll do your school electronic health records and school nursing. It looks at mental and behavioral health management. And it's got a lot of COVID-19 immunization registry pieces in it. It's complete health management system. So that's something that we have some interest in from different ITCs. And this just happened this last week. NeoNet, the ITC up toward Cleveland, they've asked us to put on a demo site so they can train their staff to do school health management. So it's another software that if you guys are interested in, we can do a demo. And if LAC is interested in that, we could probably set up a demo for you guys too, a demo site. So that's a school health management piece. The last one I'm going to talk about real quickly is Forecast 5, which has been around for a while. That was acquired by Frontline. And Forecast 5 is now getting integrated in with the various Frontline products. Again, this is probably one used mainly by superintendent's office and other administrative offices. But there is a specific one called 5 Lab that does work for student data specifically. And it will connect your data for student learning and give you the various monitoring tools that you want, drill down dashboards, things to check intervention and catch students who are falling through the cracks. So 5 Lab is something that, again, is just rolling out in Ohio. I think they have 20 some districts that are piloting 5 Lab now. And again, that's one thing we've seen a lot of interest in if school districts want to get a data analysis tool that's connected. All right. see. Before I turn it over to Craig, if there's anybody got any questions on those, Craig's going to talk a little bit about how these are integrated at this point, and then he's going to go right into the progress book demo.
Thank you, Dean.
Welcome.
All right, good morning, everybody. So as Dean mentioned, as we've become part of Frontline and we started to integrate the other products, one of the things that we've been focused on this past year is getting integration set up between the products. So between Forecast 5, School Health Management, and SPM, it's using VendorLink, actually. For those of you that are familiar with VendorLink, it's our third-party integration tool, but we're using this as well to do the integration back and forth to get that all the student data, your roster data, all of the data that's needed for those other programs loaded. So one of the advantages with this, since it's all under one wing now, is that we can, hook this all up in the background, and then all of the data just flows between those products. So, as Dean mentioned, we're looking at the early adopters on for SPM. There's integration set up there, as well as with School Health, and Forecast 5 is out running at districts right now. So that's in current production. So, all right. So I'm going to talk about. It's a little tricky. I don't know if you want to use the mouse. There we go. All right. So I'm going to talk mainly about Progress Book, SIS, data map, and gradebook updates. So we'll go through a little bit of what's been going on since the start of school, some of the highlights there, some of the items that are going to be coming out in our next release, which is coming out here shortly within the next couple weeks, and then some of the future roadmap items we'll be working on. So if anybody has any questions, please feel free to stop me. We'll go through quite a bit of stuff, so feel free. So one of the things that we've been focused on and are going to continue to focus on this coming year is not only integration between the other Frontline products, but to continue to bring the Progress Book products closer together. So when I talk about that, I'm specifically talking about SIS, gradebook, and data map. So hopefully you'll see a lot of that as we go through some of these changes that are coming up here. And actually, I should probably introduce myself because some of you might not know me since we've been going through here, but I am the product manager for the Progress Book suite. I've been with Software Answers Frontline for going on about 16 and a half years now. So kind of been through the whole gamut of, as Dean explained, going from Software Answers, gradebook, to SIS to where we are now. So my role in this is to kind of direct the products to make sure that everything is staying on track as far as bringing that integration together, making sure we stay compliant, and getting enhancements and changes into the software that we need, and working with the development teams to do that. So the first set of items I want to talk about is some things that we did in the October release. So this is stuff that you have right now that's installed. And one of the areas that we added was a name pronunciation field in SIS. So in the student profile now on the Dazzle side, if you go to the General tab, there's a new field for pronunciation. So that the idea here is if it's entered here on the SIS side, we get it in, then this will flow through to gradebook and data map for teachers to be able to also see the name pronunciation. So once it's entered into here, what will happen then is that what we're looking at right now is a screenshot of gradebook. This is on the seating chart. When the teacher goes to the seating chart, if they've enabled this, it'll show the pronunciation. You can see on this, the one on the left hand side, it'll show up on the seating chart so the teacher can see that. It'll also show up in their student profile as well, so that they can see that. So, start of the school, start of the school year, start of the next semester, they'll know that to be able to see how to pronounce that student's name correctly. So for the next set of changes, I'm actually going to jump out here and we'll go through and demo some of this in the system, just to change it up a little. All right, make sure I haven't timed out here. Sure.
Do we have to enter that, or does that automatically generate?
So the question is on the name pronunciation, if it has to be entered or if it generates. You can put it in through the system. We also have it available through VendorLink. So if any of the registration vendors have it, they can send it to us as well. So we won't generate it, but it's something that when you're registering the student, or if you want to go back and update it later, once you put it in that field, then it'll flow through the system.
We just guess how we
It's one of those.
like, that's kind
You know, it's basically the phonetic spelling of how you say that students. I know I've spent a lot of time reading about this to figure out how, but we left it open intentionally to, you know, because there's a couple different ways you could say it out. So whether it's the phonetic version or just whatever would make sense to somebody to spell it out, basically. So.
And that is currently available to everyone.
That is currently available to everyone,
Is it
right?
something that has to be turned on, or it's just there?
It's there in SIS, and I'll show you in Gradebook how you enable it on the seating chart, but it does, once it's just there, so you have that available. Teachers are not able to enter it, so,
They're the ones that probably have to test it.
yeah, they
They don't have access.
they can't enter it, they see it. The idea is that it could be put in so that they know when they come up, when the student comes in at the beginning of the year, then they can see that and say it, so. It's one of those things, if it's something that you guys think teachers should be able to change, but then if they're changing it, it gets, who's the master record on that, basically, so.
You said
Okay.
it's on the general tab?
It's on the general tab underneath the called name, I believe. Under the called name field. All right. All right, so the next set of changes we're going to go through are in the gradebook side. So these are also changes that came out in the October release. You also have access to these right now. And while we're on the topic of the seating chart, I'll go there first. We've been doing quite a bit of work on the seating chart the last couple releases to make some improvements based on some feedback that we have gotten on this. So let's see if I've timed out here or not. Some of the things that we had received after we had released the new seating chart last year was that, you know, some of the text was a little bit small. It'd be nicer if we could make it easier to read, some different things to put on it. So one of the things that we did was that now once the teachers set up their seating chart, if you click on the desk, it'll expand so that it brings up a bigger view. The text gets bigger, the picture gets bigger. If there's a comment on there, it'll show the comment text larger. And then if there is a name pronunciation, it will show up there as well. And this scrambled environment, I don't have one on this particular seating chart, but you know, any of them that you click on, that'll get bigger so they can see it. So if the teacher does have a lot of student comments on there, they can get to that and see it a lot easier. Now, we were just talking about that name pronunciation and how you enable it. When the teacher sets up their seating chart on that edit the seating chart screen, there's a new checkbox for that says show name pronunciation. So it's up to them whether or not they want to see that or not on the seating chart. So just checking that box will enable that field. Sure.
So they mark that. So some of our teachers, they put them on a big board. And if I say this is how to pronounce their name, it's going to show up on the big whiteboard.
If that checkbox is enabled, the question is if that checkbox is enabled, will it show up on the seating chart? And yes. So if they don't want it to show up on the seating chart, they can uncheck it and it won't show up. So it's up to them. They have the option. We won't show it on back. All right. So if we jump back to the seating chart real quick. One of the other changes that was in this release was we'd gotten some feedback that adding empty desks when you're setting up the seating chart at the beginning of the year sometimes is a little bit confusing for folks. So we changed the way that works a little bit. Now that when you click add desk, you have the option of adding additional students or adding empty desks. This all used to be in one drop down and was kind of, you had to know to pick an empty desk option and it was kind of confusing on how to do it. So now when you say add empty desks, you can specify how many you want to enter here. Change the desk color just to make it obvious. And once you go ahead and save it, sorry, I'm not used to this laptop. All right, so then once those are added, it'll add all three at the same time. You can move them around to where you want and place the empty desks where they're at. Prior to this, you had to do it one at a time. It wasn't very efficient. So this is a way to make that more efficient as well moving forward. So, okay, any other questions on the seating chart before I move All right. Another change that was in the release in October that you have access to now as well is a change to make the ability to see what the student's attendance was on the day that an assignment was entered. So on the assignment mark screen now, there is a new option that the teacher can enable for, it's called due date attendance. And if I go ahead and save that, what that will do is add a new column here that will show you what the daily attendance code was on the day that that assignment was due. So we'd gotten a lot of requests for this because they'd have to jump out to the attendance screen to see what the attendance was on that day if that's why the student didn't turn it in that day. So now it'll show the attendance code right there. If you hover over the attendance code, it'll give you the actual description, but this is a time-saving thing, so people don't have to jump all over the place to find this information. It's in one spot. So to enable that, the teacher can either turn it on from the class here or from the teacher preferences screen. There's another place there that can be turned on as well. We are going to be making some more changes to the assignment mark screen, which I'll get into in a little bit. So there'll be some more options that will show up here as well in the next release. All right, and then the last thing I wanted to touch base on the gradebook side in this release was for those of you that are also running data map, if a student has an active RIMP or intervention in data map, there's a new icon that shows up on the dashboard. So you can see these blue pieces of paper here. And what this is, let me change classes here real fast, is basically that is telling the teacher that there is an active intervention or an active RIMP on the data map side. So this works very similar to the way that for those of you that run special services, if there's an IEP available, it'll show the icon so you can click to go straight to the IEP. So if I hover over these, it'll show me the student has an intervention, the student has a RIMP. If I go ahead and click that, what it'll do is take me straight to that RIMP and data map so that I can get to it. So teachers don't have to jump to data map to search for students to see if they have a RIMP or if they're on a RIMP. This is a quicker way for them to see that and get to it. The same functionality is if it happens to be an intervention and I click on that, that will take me straight to the student's intervention and data map as well. So another time-saving thing to jump between those products. So are there any questions on that? That's a great question. The question is there a time frame on this? And yes, it will be anything that's considered an active intervention or RIMP for this school year. So if for some reason an intervention didn't get closed out or a RIMP didn't get closed out last year, we won't pull it up. It'll check to make sure that it's within that time frame. So special services, I think it checks within the last 18 months, but this is checking for current school year. So.
Data map only shows current year, don't they?
Yes, when you go to, you can switch back to prior years to get to things, but by default, you'll be in that current year for data there. Just out of curiosity, how many people in here are running data map right now? Okay. All right, so while we're in data map, I'll hit on a couple things here as well that are new that you also have right now in your current system. And we're continuing to work on improving the ability to work with RIMP data and again, integration between data map and SIS. And with this release, there's a new field on the homepage for third grade reading guarantee. And there's two new fields here that you can search by. One for enrolled date, either for those students that were enrolled on or before 9:30 and those students that were enrolled after 9:30, and then diagnostic results. So what this is actually doing is looking up the record directly in SIS to see what's safe for them right now so that you can filter down this list to get students, let's say, you want to see anybody that's assessed and not on track currently. This will bring back that whole list for you. So, or if you want to see which students were enrolled on or before that 9:30 date, it'll go look at SIS and bring that list back in data maps then here so that you can filter down, make sure there's nobody that's missing that you need that should be on a RIMP. One of the other things that's added to this screen as well is, on the RIMP screen, is the ability to now search by provider. So this will bring back all the providers that are available. If I go ahead and search this, then it'll give me back any student that is on a RIMP that's attached to that particular provider. And there's going to be some additional changes that are coming to this that I'll get into here in a little bit when we get to some of the future changes as well. And then the last data map thing I wanted to touch on real quick is we also added for those that are using map fluency, that is also available now as a third-party import in data map as well. So if that's something that you've begun to use for your diagnostic results for the RIMS, it's there now and can be imported. All right.
So Craig,
Yes.
on the third-party vendors, do you have it set down where if we're using Renaissance, what was their 360, now their full package, where we can do direct import? Because that's been the one downfall for our district, is we have never had the ability to do direct import of our data. So I have to do the district template, VLOOKUP all my data into a spreadsheet to be able to load it in the data map for our teachers.
For the Renaissance.
Yes.
Okay. Let me check after that one. I'm not 100% sure on. I'll check with my product owner when we're done, and I can find out for sure for you. But we continue to work on adding as many of these and improving them as we can, because for cases like that, one of the biggest challenges that we have with this sometimes is the third-party vendors like to change their file layouts a lot. I know you guys all know about this. We deal with this on the state side a lot too. So we're constantly churning, trying to keep up with them to get that stuff up to date. So, but I will check on that one specifically.
Yeah,
I don't know.
They just changed their file.
Okay. Okay, I know that, and we've been working on anybody using Dibbles 8. We are also working on trying to get, because there's like 5 or 6 different layouts that you can pull from their site. So we're trying to get to the bottom of which one we need to pull from that too. So. All right, so let's jump over to SIS now. And this is a change that actually came out this summer. You all may be aware of this, but just to make sure. There is because we're getting close to that time, there is a new import for student course requests. So for those of you that may track student course requests in an external system or in a spreadsheet, we have a new import page, if this decides to load, that will allow you to keep an Excel file of each student and up to 15 course requests. And then the new page will essentially let you go in and load that in bulk. So if you are keeping track of those separately, then you'll be able to do that. And there is a file layout available for that. It's really simple. It's building ID, student ID, and then all the course codes that you want for those course requests to go.
And while that's loading, Craig, I did do this for some of our districts last year.
Okay.
And so I have that layout, and I did talk at the Licking County Counselor meeting, and they are all aware of this. So if you guys may hear some things about them wanting to do this, they are already aware of it, but it is a huge time saver. And I'm so happy that they put this into the system. This is, I mean, will save your counselors so much time. So this is huge.
All right, so yeah, now that we're up here under import export, there's this new student course request import is where you go to do it. It's a very exciting screen, but you basically just load that file and it'll load all those records in for you there. So then you're ready to go for scheduling. As far as while we're talking about that, getting the next school year in there for 22-23, that will be coming in the next release so that you'll be able to start those processes as well. So. All right. Are there any questions on any of that? Yes.
But because you said import course request, is there ways to, we're JVS.
Okay.
Satellites. So we need to get like grades from some schools and get them into our system and work. Is there a way that we can do that? Because right now, no one figured that out.
Yeah, the question is for the JVS, is there a way to get grades over when the students move over? And do you guys use the student transfer process from the? Okay, because
This is not our home, not our main. We just need to enter their grades.
This is a reverse of the JVS grade, not taking from the JVS and pushing to the home. They need to push from the home
to the
JVS.
JVS. Trying to think if there's right now. No, it's during the transfer process is where we have it, where if it's mapped, it'll bring that course history over, but not the opposite way right now. I think what you're looking for.
Might want to add that to, so I know every salary, including JVS.
Yeah, and especially,
Even if we could just pull the data and do an import,
okay,
that would be.
all right. And I know with the new FR reporting and all that fun stuff, so. Okay. Anything else? I'm gonna jump back over to the deck. And I'll send this deck to LACA to share out with everybody too, so that you guys will have it too for after this as well. All right, so the rest of the SIS items I wanted to talk about, I was going to go from the PowerPoint here. So we just talked about the student course request import. The 21.1 release that you currently have as well had some additional grad points updates. So continuing to work on adding some of the changes that we need for grad points for this year. One of the big changes that might not be super apparent is that we did quite a bit of work to improve the performance of the grad points calculator, so that when it runs the daily job, but then when you do individual kids, it should run quite a bit faster. And then there was also some changes on the grad point screen as well for, this is kind of minor, just some alignment issues. But one of the things that will be coming on that grad point summary screen is there's a print icon that shows up at the top of it. And right now, if you click it, it doesn't do anything, but we are finishing up a report right now that we'll be adding there that will allow you to essentially see what the student's graduation plan looks like. So this will pull all of the grad points information, their seal information, and then some of the additional things that kind of based on ODE's layout for this will be showing there. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as we kind of move forward here. This release also had the new program codes that were added for the grad pathways this year. I believe there were a handful of new programs for that, as well as some additions there as well. We also went back and spent some time working on the assessment screens. So, over the last, 5, 6, 7 years, there's obviously been a ton of changes with the state assessments in particular. And a lot of obsolete assessment pages were out there now that students haven't taken in 5, 6 years. So we cleaned up a lot of those pages just to make everything a little bit more efficient, so that you don't see things like proficiency scores out there anymore in the current year. And then also those related reports. We also updated the assessment list for those of you that use that page to only show the current valid assessments as well, to clean out some of that noise from those pages. And then for the alternate assessment, we updated the standards on that as well. So now when you view those results, it'll display the correct levels for those existing students for those assessment scores as well, because those were a little bit out of date also. And then 21.1 and the coming release had the first round of changes that we need for the civil rights report. So this is another civil rights reporting. Well, actually it was supposed to be last year and then it got pushed to this year, but reporting for this opens next month in December. And I'll talk a little bit more about this when we get to 21.2 changes, but we'll have all the needed changes in that release so that you'll be able to run and do your civil rights report. All right, so now I'm going to move into the items that are coming in the next release, which is will be out here shortly. We'll release it to the ITCs here within the coming weeks. And we'll talk about gradebook first. So one of the changes that we'll be making, I had mentioned on the assignment mark screen that we were going to be making additional changes there. And one of the big ones that we had gotten a lot of requests to add was the ability to add an assignment comment bank or a quicker way to put comments in on assignments. So, if there's a particular comment that a teacher is using over and over again, right now, you have to type it again, you have to copy and paste it. It's not the most efficient thing. So we're adding a feature here so that as the teacher, if the teacher decides there's a comment that they want to save, they can save it quickly. And the next time they go into the field and start typing it, it'll come up and auto-complete it. So think about how Excel works right now, for instance. It will come up and show you the matches that it finds. And the idea here is to keep this as quick as possible to make it easy to use. So when this release comes out, what'll happen then is in that same gear icon that I showed earlier, there'll be a new option for comment autocomplete. When that is turned on, then there'll be a new link on that page called for assignment comment bank. And we'll get back to that in a minute. But once that is there, then when the teacher starts typing in a comment, there'll be a new icon that shows up next to that comment field. So you can kind of see it there. It's that it's like a bank. If you go ahead and click that, all right, there's a tooltip too to show you what it is. But if you click it, what it'll do is it'll add that to their assignment comment bank. So then that great job comment will be stored for that teacher. Now, what is kind of cool about this is that then the next time they go into the next field, they start typing that after the first 2 characters, it's going to match that great job and come up. And then it's just a matter of click off of it, you tab off of it, it'll save that, it'll auto save that comment on the fly, and then they can move on. So this will be a big time saver in that regard. So let me jump back there. I just realized I'm missing the bank slide. And then when you click on the assignment comment bank, essentially that's a way that they can go in and delete those comments and manage that list as well. So are there any questions on that before I move on? Again, this is something the teacher has the option to use. They can turn it on, they can turn it off. But hopefully this will save people some time working on this page. Another big change on the gradebook side is that we've gotten a lot of requests again this fall to add a principal seating chart view for those that are using the seating charts for either COVID tracking or different purposes. So what this will do is add the ability on the principal homepage for them to look up any teacher's seating charts and then get a read-only view of that and print them off. So when the principal logs into their homepage, there's going to be a link at the top called view a teacher's information. And this has combined a couple different links that we had on this page. That we had one so they can view their gradebook, they can view their 5-day planner, and then we're adding the one to view the seating chart to this as well. So this has all been combined into one area. So if the principal clicks on that view a teacher's information, then in that view, you can see at the end there's a new option for seating chart. So this is the same page that they've always had. They're used to this page. It's just the options there are a little bit different of what to click on. So if the principal looks up that teacher, they click the seating chart link, then it'll take them to that same seating chart page that the teacher sees, just in a read-only view. So they can see the comments. They can go ahead and print from here. They can use the print all to print all the seating charts off for that teacher in one shot. They just can't make any changes to it. The teacher still has to make any changes to it. So and pause there on that. And again, this will be coming in the next release that's coming here in the next few weeks.
Well, this feature will only be available to those that have that principal page.
Correct. If you have access to that principal page, you'll be able to get to that. All right. So data map, some of the changes that are coming in this next release. The big one is building on the ability to search by the provider that I showed earlier. So when this release goes out, we added that provider search over there in the last release, but the new option will be, there'll be a new button up at the top that says group by provider. So when you go to the RIMP screen, and if you click on that group by provider button, what it'll do then is change the view in the page to group them by provider. So you can see, I click that button, you can ungroup it from there as well, but then it'll go through and it'll put all the students that belong to that provider in each of those grids. What it'll also do is that if a student has multiple providers, you'll see them listed under each provider so that it separates those as well to make it easier to figure out which students are being served by which providers. And then, as it always has, if you use the button up there at the top to do the Excel export, it'll pull that data out in the same format, sorted that way. So, hopefully that'll make it a lot easier to sort those lists and find that information. The other big change that'll be in data map for 21.2 is there is a new intervention notification coming. So this will be as part of the suite-wide notifications that we currently have that we've added over the last year or two. So this will be a new one that you can set up that will essentially send a notification to anybody that's subscribed to that one. Anytime a student is put on an intervention that falls within the last 2 weeks. So we're using that 2-week time frame to send these out so that if there's changes made to something that happened 3 months ago, we're not going to spam everybody with a notification on that because it's out of date. What this will do then is it runs essentially every day. It will go through and find out any kids that have been put on an intervention based on that start date. And you can also specify how many days prior you want it to go back and look for that as well. Include the day of, you set that up. You can schedule what time you want it to run. So if you want it to run at 1 o'clock every day, you can set that, and then it'll go through and find all those and send those notifications out. So another way to share that information with teachers and across people subscribe to that. So between getting the intervention and then having those new icons available on the dashboard to see those interventions, there will be multiple ways to find out that information. All right, and then for SIS, in 21.2, we're going to be adding some additional grad point updates. So this is the release that will have the ability to start tracking which graduation seals the student plans to earn. So when you go to that requirements page, there will be a new checkbox with a new column for plans to earn, where you'll be able to mark that. This is back to what I mentioned earlier about the new graduation plan report. We'll be using this information there as well. But this is where you'll be able to keep track of those flags for those students.
Fran,
Yes.
will that automatically translate those membership codes into the membership screen so for reporting?
Yes. So the question is, will that translate those codes into the membership screen for reporting? And yes, we are going to make it so that that will all flow through so that you do it in one spot, and then we'll create the program codes.
Okay,
from
and
there.
this may be something you're going to be getting to, but I know you and Debbie talked at OETSA that instead of maintaining the fields on the graduate tab of the student profile for fine arts and PE exempt and all those, that was going to be moved to the miscellaneous tab of the grad points. Is that in this release or is that still to come?
That's coming.
Okay.
The question is if we're moving, we've talked at OETSA, we talked about moving some of the fields for fine arts and PE and stuff that are on the FN tab currently to the grad points area so that the counselors could also make changes there. And we will be moving those over so that we won't have it in both spots, but we'll move it so that it can be maintained in that same spot with the grad points area. And you don't need that EMIS level security to update that information. So.
Okay.
So once those grad seals are checked on that screen, then when you go to the grad points area under the readiness seals, we've updated it so that you'll be able to see based on the icons if it's in progress, if they plan to earn it, or if it's earned. So if they plan to earn it, they'll get that yellow clock icon next to it, or if they've earned it, they'll get the check, the green check mark. All right, and then again, the other big change that is in 21.2 are the remaining changes that are needed for civil rights. This has pretty much been our main focus for this release, is to get those changes all done so that we'll be ready to go for that. So once that is installed, you'll be able to begin running the report. So we'll still have the actual report with all the tables in it, so that you can see the totals in there, and then also the CSV extract that'll have all the fields in it with the values in it. So when this release comes out, the release notes that go with it will have all the changes documented in it that we've made in there. You know, there's a lot of, this year I feel like they've changed a lot of table names and things like that and moved some things around. So there's quite a few changes there, but just a reminder as well that there is the manual entry page that for things that either we just don't have in the system or we can't calculate, you know, those fields can be entered there, which will end up in the CSV file. And then the other information in here, and I'm hoping this is still accurate because the slide's a few weeks old, but it opens on the 13th and then ends around the end of February is the window. Yes.
Question, and I think it's on the manual one.
Yes.
Like I opened hours up for last year and there was numbers in there. And no one had touched it. So is that from what, 2 years ago? Does that roll up each year?
Yeah, it's the same page. So you update it to be
Okay,
what the new
so I
numbers
thought
are.
someone may have been
Yeah,
proactive.
yeah,
Maybe.
it's unfortunately no, yeah, it's yeah. But yeah, but it is based on last year's data. And I wanted to ask you guys this too, because I heard a rumor that this might go to be an every year thing moving forward. Okay, all right, I just want to make sure. So I know we spend a lot, I know you guys spend a lot of time on this and we spend a lot of time updating it to get it ready to go, but
It is, you know, on that information being in there, it's kind of nice knowing what you previously had in there and what you need to add in there. But it would also be nice if there was a way to let the districts know, you know, I
It's-
don't know how you would do that this is last year's information.
we could put a note at the top.
Kind of like gifted where.
That's what I was thinking, gifted identified, the information's there, but it's not there until you do an action.
Yeah, I think we could add something like that to clarify that. That's a good one. Okay, I think I ran through most of this, just the reminders on those items. Can be run from either the district or the building level. The default effective date on this will default to 10/1. And then if you are doing block scheduling, just a reminder on that to specify the first block effective date and second block effective date on that too when running that report. That's still all on that same screen where you submit the report. That all looks the same. None of that has changed. So. All right. So are there any questions on any of that stuff that's coming up there? I'm just going to talk a little bit about what we've got coming up, kind of what we'll be focused on over the next year. And then there's a couple quick things I wanted to hit on as well. All right. So what we're looking at working on for this next coming calendar year for the 2022 year is to obviously we'll keep up with the EMIS updates and what's coming. You know, it's a little bit interesting now with the fact that they have to publish those changes 90 days out for public comment and everything. So we have a little bit better view into what's coming to help stay ahead of that. So obviously that'll always be our number one priority, is making sure we stay up on that stuff. One of the other things that I'll talk a little bit about here in a minute is the mobile app. So one of the big things we want to work on for next year is we're going to be adding mobile app notifications, and we'll jump back to that here in a minute. We also want to make more parent access information available. So there are a lot of areas that we can still add to parent access that we've had requests for over the years, for things like discipline assessment information, grad points information, things like that you want to share with parents that we could add to parent access and keep that all in one place. So we'll be looking at adding more information there. We are also looking at, for JVS contact integration. So the grades was a good question on that, because the other thing that we want to do is add the ability that if there is a trust set up, that you'll be able to send contacts back and forth, at least primary contacts, so that when the student transfers over, that default contact record could come over, so that it doesn't have to be rekeyed when the students are transferred over, if that trust is set up between the homeschool and the JVS. For data map, we are going to put an enhancement in. We're calling it admin filter sharing, but essentially what this is the ability that if there is a specific way that you want to look at a set of assessment data, if you have, trying to think, different cut scores you want to follow, things like that at your particular district, one person will be able to set that data view up and send it out to the staff, so that people don't have to go through and reinvent the wheel every time they want to filter a data set. So if there's something for a certain way that a specific department wants to see the data, you can set it up, save it one time, and share that out, so that we can save more time on setting up some of that filtering. And then as we talked about at the beginning, just more frontline product integration in general. We've got a lot of that data flowing back and forth, loading the students and things, but there's other things that we can do to make the integration between all of these products tighter and easier to use. All right, so for the Parent Access mobile app, just out of curiosity, how many of you guys have seen it? Okay. We'll go through it then. So it's been a little bit interesting this past year with the pandemic and everything, is we haven't been out and about as much, as Dean mentioned too, as we normally would have been. This is my first one of these that I've done in a year and a half. So it's a little interesting to see who's seen what so far. But last year, one of our big initiatives was rolling out the new Parent Access mobile app. So it's available now in the app stores for both iOS and Android. And what this is a true mobile app. So we've always had the default web views on mobile devices for Parent Access, but we've always had the request to get a true mobile app out there. So now there is a native one out there. So when a parent or student downloads this, they use their existing Parent Access credentials. You don't have to do anything to set up any new credentials or anything like that. It's the same login information. And we worked quite a bit with parents and some students, those students being a lot of the employees' kids, to kind of see how, what made sense to them as far as how mobile app should flow. Things like, what your top 5 areas that you hit. We put some different screenshots together of like, where do you think you would go? And our goal of this was to make it as simple as possible so that somebody would not need to be trained to use this. Just in a typical mobile app design, just somebody can download it, start using it, and it's easy to use. So what this will do then is, if you are a parent or a student, you've downloaded it and signed in, then you can get to a lot of the same information that's currently available in Parent Access. So grades, homework, attendance, report cards, schedules, all that good stuff. And we'll run through them here quick, just so you can see kind of what this looks like. One of the other things to note too is that the flyers that Dean sent around, or sent to LAC, Megan, I don't know if you've sent those out or not yet.
I
She did.
did. I emailed those out to all the team leaders. So if there's people other than the team leaders in this meeting, they'll have to get the team
Okay.
leader to send that to them, but they should have it all.
Okay, thank you. One of the flyers in there is specifically on the mobile app, how to get to it, how to download it, how to log in, that you can share with parents and students as well to get there. But it's a very simple login process. But once a parent is logged in, they are going to land on this dashboard view, which is similar to the way the Parent Access website works, so that they can quickly see for all of the classes what the current average is. And then you can see that those red and green little bubbles there, which is a quick indicator, and you'll see in a minute of, is there homework coming up that's due? Are there missing assignments? Just a quick hit visual way to see that. One of the things that we had found out with the current Parent Access website, the way it works right now, is parents are always going to land on that dashboard view to see the grades. Students are going to land on their planner, because they had told us that they didn't want it to automatically land on the grades just in case their friends were sitting next to them. They don't want them to be able to see their grades by default. So that's the biggest difference when you log into this. The parent's going to see grades, kid's going to see their planner. So if I would tap on one of those classes, what that'll do then is take me to the assignments for that classes. So you can see at the top there, anything that's missing is going to show up at the top with the red icon there. So that flows through. So you can see any missing there. And then anything that's due coming up will be below that. And then anything that's graded, they can see in the list there as well for that particular class. Sorry, let me move this up a little bit so you can see the top there. As a parent, you can also see at the top with that little where it says Indy Abbott with the picture, there's a little caret up there so you can switch. If you have multiple students tied to your account, it's just a matter of hitting that, changing to the next student so you can flip between them, your students as well. So it's very similar to the way Parent Access Web works in that regard as well. Also in that area is a class information and resources area. So if you have teachers that are using the class information page in the gradebook, what they can do is set up, this is very similar to setting up a home page. This will give the parent or student very basic information about the class, sections, what period it is, what room. But then they can also set up down here, they can add just an intro. This is a text editor. They can add whatever they want in there to be able to introduce the class. And then on the resources tab there on the left-hand side, teacher can also post any documents or links for the class that they want here. So if I would tap on the class expectation documents, say they have a syllabus or something out there, it'll actually open that document right in the mobile app. Same thing with the links. It'll link you right to those links. So it's just a quick way for the teacher to share information for the class. All right, so I'd mentioned earlier about when the student lands, when they log in. So you can see down there in the bottom nav, it's on the assignments nav area. So this is where the student's going to land. Parent could switch here as well if they wanted to, but this is very similar to the view that we looked at for the assignments, other than this gives you a view of all of your classes in one shot so that you can see, do I have anything missing in any class? Do I have anything coming up that I need to pay attention to? There's also a posted homework tab here. And what that will do is if the teacher is using the post homework functionality in the gradebook, this is a way that they can post specific homework that's coming up that's due that may have documents attached, may have links that are needed for that particular homework that's coming up. So that those will all, also all open up directly in the mobile app. And then there is a calendar view as well, so that if you go here and you'll see any assignments that are coming up due have the circles around them so that you have assignments due that day. If I tap on one of those circles down below it, it'll list any of the assignments for any of my classes that I have due on that. So it's a kind of a nice view to be able to just look at the month and see what I have coming up for my classes. All right, so those are the two main areas, but then there's also a few areas that you can get to in the menu of the app. So we are offering a class schedule, report cards for anybody that is publishing PDF report cards out to the web. And then there's also a My Account screen just with some basic info. But the schedule will work very similar to the way the Parent Access website works right now. If you have these things enabled, they'll show up. So you can show the schedule, you can show fee balances, transportation info, locker information, or homerooms. Again, if you have it turned on in the Parent Access admin area, those will show up. And then the schedule will show basically all the terms that the student has in any of their classes for that particular schedule. So this follows the same rules as the Parent Access website as far as when the schedules show up. So if you have it set to show up at certain dates, things like that, it'll follow those same rules. You can see at the top, if the fee balances are turned on, if the locker information is turned on, and then the schedule shows up down below there. And then finally, report cards. So if you are currently publishing the PDF versions of the report cards out to Parent Access, this will also be available in the mobile app. So if the parent or student goes to the report card area, they can open up the actual PDF right there in the app. And then it will use the iOS or Android's native sharing functionality. So then the parent or student can save that, send it off, do whatever they want with it straight from the app. So very similar if those are published out there. So, so this is the first step in getting the report cards out there. One of the things that we're working on right now with this though, is the ability that once report cards are published, you'll be able to send a notification that say, hey, report cards are out there, go take a look now. You can go grab them and download them. So. All right, are there any questions? I know I just talked a whole lot. Are there any questions on that?
So on the app, is there a way for a parent to, if they're creating their account through the app, to link a second or third child? Because that's the biggest complaint I've had from parents, is there's no way to link a child. So I've had to direct back to the web to create the account, link the child. Then once they're in that, they're fine.
There is from the login page. And that is something that we know we need to add inside of the app itself, because they're used to going to that My Account screen to do that. When you hit the login page, there's a button on there that says, it either says new to Progress Book or link. I can, whoever wants to see it, I could, unfortunately, I can't show it on my phone right now, but I can show you. But it'll take you, essentially, it takes you to that same screen in the web so that you can do that. But we know we need to add it in the app itself to be able to link to that as a feature that needs to be added there.
And just so everybody's aware, Beth did add this at the beginning of the school year when the release came out. She added it to your home screen of your parent access logins page. So it does show the document that Craig was talking about as well on there. So you can download that document. She also posted a YouTube video on there to kind of help walk through that process as well. So that is on your district login parent access website, unless you told us not to post that on there. So unless she heard from you to specifically not put it on there, it is on your login website with kind of some information on there.
Okay. So what we're working on right now is, as we're getting feedback on this, since it's brand new, we're trying to push changes out as fast as we can. So one of the cool things about the mobile app is that since it goes to the app stores, we can make changes and push those changes to the app stores without necessarily having to do a full Progress Book suite release. So, as long as it's a change to the app itself, we can push those changes pretty quick. And one of the main pieces of feedback that we've gotten so far that we're making a change on is that if you've used this, the drop downs that we implemented originally were kind of hard to read because the text kind of floated into the background. That the screenshot on the right shows the way it is currently right now. We're going to switch everything over to use the native OS selection. So when you hit that all classes drop down, then you'll get the screenshot on the left to pick your classes. And it's just a better experience overall to get that information. We're also working on some different error handling as well. So one of the things that we found out when we released, this went out originally like mid to end of August, I believe, is that if just on the way it worked out timing wise, if there were no classes available yet, it was just blank, which doesn't give you a good warm and fuzzy when you log in and you just see a blank list there. So we're putting much better error handling in to account for that, to give some better messaging when those types of things happen, so that we just don't want anybody to get in there and be stuck. We want to give them a way to know what's going on and be able to reload the page. And then I had mentioned earlier, the big item that we're working on next that will be coming out here in the second half of this school year is the ability to enable push notifications on the mobile app. So for the first three that we're working on, the first two are the ones that we have email-based notifications available right now through Parent Access Web for missing assignments and low mark. We'll be adding screens in the app so that as a parent or student, you can go in and enable those to get the push notification. And then I'd also mentioned about the report cards being available. So those will be the first 3 that are coming, but we're planning on adding a lot more to this to be able to make communication better and offer different additional notifications. So this is one of those things that's really exciting to me because the sky's the limit kind of on where we can take this and the information that you'll be able to push to parents and students from the mobile app. So, and then same thing, if, you know, as you get more people in there and using it, if there's things that you hear or things that you see that you'd like to change, let LACA know and they'll let us know, because the feedback is the best thing we have going right now to be able to make improvements. So like hearing that's what they're struggling with the most right now, I'll bump that.
It looks like they just missed it
Yeah.
when I went back and looked at it. Has there been any discussion about whether or not the online dashboard will be available through the mobile app?
For virtual classroom?
Yes.
Yes. So the question is whether or not the online dashboard will be available through the mobile app. And yes, there has been. I don't know when yet, but yes, that's kind of going to be in the next phase of it. So we're looking at that. And also the other thing is being able to show report card grades in a grid view, so that if you're not pushing grades or report cards through the PDFs right now, that you'd still be able to turn on and show the report cards that way. It's a little bit trickier on the smaller screen to do it, but we know that's something else. All right. Any other questions on the mobile app before All right. So the one thing I wanted to, let's see, we got about 5 minutes here, hit on real quick was, because this is something that we'll be looking at adding more of as we kind of go on throughout the year here, is that we're looking at additional places that we can add kind of data views or visualizations to the suite itself. So one of the things that we added in Data Map last year was a couple of places where those visualizations show up. And what I mean by that is easier ways to see data. So if I look at they didn't time out. The student roadmap here, you know, there's a variety of different ways that you can see data here already. So the demographics, whether they're on an intervention or RIMP, and then attendance. And one of the things that we added last year that maybe wasn't entirely apparent is anywhere in Data Map that you see the little graph icon show up, we added a visualization here for attendance, just to give a quick hit view of, you can see days absence and absence hours here. So whether it's excused hours or unexcused hours there on the right, or the days absence over the years on this, you can see a quick breakdown of that. We're going to be looking at adding this type of data in other places in the suite as well, as something that's on the roadmap coming up. So, you know, on the SIS side specifically, this information would be helpful. There's also another one in Data Map right now for assessment scores on multiple measures. So switch here. So if I look at OST for the last 2 years, this is another place where we've added additional data views here. Now, I apologize that this is a flat graph because this is all scrambled demo data. So every kid in the system has the same scores. Normally this would be, you'd be able to see trending data from year to year. So for example, on let's say the grade 4 ELA, from 1920 to 2021, you'd be able to see the up or down trending data on that. So this is stuff that's in there right now. For those of you that are running Data Map, you can go in and see that information. You can interact with these graphs if you can turn on which ones you want to see, which ones you don't want to see. And then also hovering over that will give you student counts and that type of data as well. So just to kind of give you an idea on where some of that's heading. The other thing I wanted to show you guys real quick too in Data Map while I'm thinking about it is I had mentioned earlier that we were continuing to kind of improve the RIMP process as well. One of the things that was in the last release is that we've moved the student header to the top of this screen. So this only used to be on that general tab. When you switch tabs, it would go away then. So that as you're clicking through the tabs now, you'll always have that general demographic data at the top of the RIMP screen now as well. So, you know, a little tweak, but something that should be helpful to remember which student you happen to be working on. So, but there's some additional just nice to have things that we're planning on adding for the RIMPs as well. So, are there any general questions on the RIMPs while we're here? Can I answer? Right. All right, well, I think that is it for me. If there's any additional questions or anything in general that I didn't cover or that anybody would like to talk about, anything you'd like to see? In general, I think Megan, were we scheduled till 11:30 or 12?
I have it with you speaking until 11:30. Then I was going to open it up for questions, comments, and kind of just exactly what you're doing right now.
Okay. Make sure I don't go over on your schedule. So
No, you're okay. Thank you so much for your presentation, both Craig and Dean. We really appreciate it.
we do have a quick civil rights question.
Yeah.
So if we do the manual update, we have to do that prior to running that report. What if we have changes after? We have to do it in the report,
You do it on,
and you run it again.
you could run it again. So you'd make the changes to the manual and run it again. Yeah, you can run it as many times as you need to. The question was, if there's changes after the report's been run on the manual information, can you make the changes on the manual page again and rerun the report? And yes, you can. All right, cool. Well, thank you all very much for your time and attention. If there's any other questions anybody has, Dean and I will hang out for a little bit and then should be good. So thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Are there any questions from anyone online? I haven't seen any,
I have-
and I haven't heard anyone speak up that's connected online.
I haven't seen any in the chat either. I did want to talk for a second. I know Craig mentioned we at LACA will be getting that new school year release, and just be on the lookout for those the school year initialization forms. Those are what I send out, and we usually do that here within the next week or two. And then once we get that release, usually around Christmas break is when I have the deadline to return the information and we start building your new school year. So be on the lookout for your SYI forms. I will send those shortly, and then that way we can get everything built for that new school year. And if you were one of the lucky ones that got to build a virtual building this year, I will need a form for your virtual building as well.
And on that virtual building, I just need to remind everyone, if you did apply for an IRN for a new online building, if you choose not to use it, make sure that the status of that building is closed. Because if that status of the building is open, then you will have to have students in it, courses in it, and do EMIS reporting from that virtual building along with the rest of your other buildings. So that is just one thing that they did mention in one of the last ITC calls, was if you do have one of those online buildings that you choose not to use, then you will have to change the status to closed. Otherwise, ODE will be expecting everything from that building.
And I actually just had a district this week request, because they had that virtual building built, and they needed courses rolled over. So we can do a lot of that stuff by script and pull all of that information in for you if need be. Are there any Do you have a
Any
quiet
questions?
room over there, Mary?
They're all pretty quiet right now. They're still awake.
That's good.
Well, if there's no more questions, it's so great to see everyone and have you all together again for the first